You're just a bus driver, you wouldn't understand law. The man in the expensive suit sneered. 6 months later, he stood in handcuffs, as that same uneducated driver looked down at him from the judge's bench ready to sentence him. Marcus Thompson woke up at 5:30 a.m. to the sound of his alarm. In his small apartment in one of Boston's working-class neighborhoods, life always started early. He showered, made breakfast, and put on his navy blue bus driver uniform. Looking at himself in the mirror, he saw a 34-year-old man, tired but determined. This morning wasn't different from the others. At least it didn't seem that way. As Marcus left the house, he glanced at his bag. It contained law books, but no one knew about that. For 3 years, he'd been maintaining the same routine, driving buses during the day, attending law school at night. He didn't tell anyone because no one believed it anyway. How could a bus driver become a lawyer? People would think. Boston Metropolitan Transit Authority's Route 47 bus had become the center of Marcus's life. Every morning, same route, same stops, same faces. Most passengers treated him as invisible, while others showed him disrespect. But Marcus endured, because he had a purpose. When he pulled the bus out of the garage at 6:15 a.m., he headed toward the first stop. As he drove down Commonwealth Avenue, the city was beginning to wake up. Business people, students, cleaning staff, everyone chasing their own lives. When the first passengers boarded, they gave Marcus a glance mixed with greeting. Most were buried in their phones, some drinking coffee. It seemed like a normal morning. At 7:30 a.m., at the downtown stop, an important change occurred. Robert Henderson got on. Robert Henderson was the founder of Henderson & Associates, one of Boston's most prestigious law firms. He was 52 years old, gray-haired, always wearing expensive suits. He thought very highly of himself, and this showed in his behavior. When Marcus saw him in the mirror, he recognized him, not just as a passenger, but from television and newspapers. He was a famous lawyer, particularly known for winning difficult cases. When Robert boarded the bus, he looked at Marcus while inserting his ticket. There was condescension in his eyes. "Good morning," Marcus said politely. Robert didn't respond. He just sat in one of the back seats and pulled out his phone. This was Marcus's introduction to Robert Henderson. But it would take much longer for Robert to truly get to know Marcus. A few days later, Robert boarded the same bus again. This time, his colleague Jonathan Wright was with him. They were both heading to court and talking loudly. "We'll definitely win this case," Robert was saying. "The opposition is so incompetent, it's like they never went to law school." Jonathan laughed. "You're really ruthless, Robert. But you're right. Some people just aren't cut out for this work." Marcus tried to focus on traffic, but could hear their conversation. They were talking about law, and Marcus understood every word. He even noticed where they were wrong on some points. "Of course," Robert continued, "law isn't something everyone can understand. It requires a certain level of intelligence. Like this bus driver," he pointed at Marcus. "He probably doesn't even know what the word constitution means." Jonathan burst into laughter. "You're right, these people can only do simple jobs. Work that requires thinking isn't for them." Marcus's hand tightened on the steering wheel, but he stayed calm. During his education, he'd heard many such things. When people saw his uniform, they immediately jumped to prejudices. When they stopped at a traffic light, Robert stood up. "Driver," he called to Marcus, "go faster next time. You're wasting important people's time." Marcus met his eyes in the mirror. "I need to follow traffic rules, Mr. Henderson. Safety is my priority." Robert was surprised. "How do you know my name? You're a famous lawyer. Everyone knows you." Robert didn't seem pleased with this answer. "Yes, I'm famous because I'm good at my job. You focus on yours." The light turned green, and Marcus continued driving. But this conversation was the beginning of something. In the following weeks, Robert continued to board the same bus regularly, and each time he began treating Marcus with even more disrespect. One Monday morning, the bus was crowded. Robert couldn't sit in his usual seat and had to stand. This made him even more irritated. "This bus is terrible," he complained to Jonathan. "Why don't you drive a car?" "My car's in the shop," Jonathan replied. "I have to endure this misery for another week." Marcus watched them through the rearview mirror. Their conversation was becoming increasingly aggressive. "Look at this driver," Robert said. "I'm sure he didn't even finish school. These types of people always stay in the same place. They never develop." Marcus couldn't take it anymore. "Excuse me, Mr. Henderson," he said. "It's impossible not to hear your conversation. If I'm bothering you—" "Yes, you are bothering me," Robert exploded. "You're just a bus driver. Know your place and shut up." Other passengers on the bus began watching the situation. Some looked uncomfortable, while others seemed to side with Robert. Marcus took a breath. "Everyone deserves respect, Mr. Henderson." "Respect?" Robert laughed. "Respect is earned." "What have you done to deserve respect? Drive a bus? That's a job anyone can do." Jonathan chimed in. "Robert's right. Some people are born leaders, some are born followers. You're in the second category, driver." Marcus no longer had the strength to endure. But he didn't speak up. He just continued doing his job. That evening when he got home, he was quite tired. But he had to go to law classes. He was attending the night program at Boston University Law School and was only a few months away from graduation. In class, they were studying constitutional law. Professor Dr. Williams was asking questions, and Marcus was answering each one correctly. Other students in the class were amazed by Marcus's knowledge on the subject. "Marcus," said Dr. Williams, "your thesis on constitutional rights is really impressive. What are your plans after graduation?" Marcus smiled. "Actually, Professor, I have a special plan." Marcus's nightlife was completely different from his day life. When he took off his bus uniform and put on casual clothes, he became a completely different person. He spent hours in Boston University's law library, studying cases, reading constitutional interpretations. His classmates loved him. Marcus was both intelligent and humble. No one knew he drove buses during the day. He introduced himself as a part-time student. Tonight he was presenting an important project in the constitutional law seminar. His topic was workers' rights and constitutional protection. "Marcus Thompson's presentation," said Dr. Williams. "Marcus, the stage is yours." Marcus stood up and turned on the projector. "Today I'll talk to you about workers' rights," he said, "particularly about discrimination arising from social status differences." His presentation was perfect. He fluently explained legal references, precedents, constitutional articles. The class was mesmerized. "In conclusion," Marcus said, "a person's profession doesn't determine that person's value. The Constitution commands that all citizens be shown equal respect." Dr. Williams applauded while standing. "Magnificent, Marcus. This presentation is graduate level." After the presentation ended, his classmate Sarah approached him. "Marcus, you're really amazing. Where did you learn all this?" Marcus smiled. "Life experience, Sarah. Sometimes the best lessons are learned outside the classroom." Walking home, Marcus was thinking. Robert Henderson's condescending looks, his humiliating words. What would that man say if he knew who he was dealing with? Friday morning, as Marcus was preparing his bus, he received special news. He had passed the bar exam and was officially a lawyer. Moreover, the Massachusetts State Judiciary had sent him an invitation to apply for a judge position. But he hadn't told anyone yet. He wanted to keep it secret until the job application process was complete. That morning, Robert Henderson was more aggressive than usual. When he boarded the bus, he was yelling on the phone, "No, this decision is completely wrong. That judge has no idea about law." When he hung up, he turned to Jonathan. "It's become impossible to find a decent judge in this city. They're all incompetent." Marcus was listening, but not speaking. Robert continued. "Last week, Judge Martinez's decision was completely ridiculous. He doesn't even know precedents. I don't understand how these types of people become judges." "You're right," said Jonathan. "There are serious problems in the system." At that moment, Marcus couldn't stand it. "Excuse me, Mr. Henderson," he said. "Which decision of Judge Martinez are you talking about?" Robert was surprised. "What do you know about law?" "I'm just curious." "Which case?" "Torres versus Commonwealth case," Robert said in a mocking tone. "But you wouldn't understand these things." Marcus smiled. "Isn't that a constitutional rights violation case? Under the Fourth Amendment?" Robert's mouth fell open. "How do you know these things?" "I read," Marcus said calmly. "Judge Martinez's decision was actually very correct. It was based on the Supreme Court's precedent in Johnson versus United States. Robert began stammering. You're a bus driver. It's impossible for you to know these things. Why would it be impossible? Marcus asked. Do you need special DNA to be a lawyer? The silence on the bus was tense. Other passengers were also watching the situation. Robert composed himself. Listen to me, he said harshly. You're just a bus driver. You can't understand law. This isn't a subject at your level. Marcus focused on traffic, but was smiling inside. I understand, Mr. Henderson. Good, Robert said. Don't think about interfering in such matters again. You drive your bus, we'll handle the work that requires thinking. That day when Marcus got off work, he received an important phone call. It was from the Massachusetts State Judiciary. Congratulations, Marcus Thompson. You've been selected for the judge position. Your start date is next Monday. When Marcus hung up, his eyes welled up. The moment he'd been waiting for years had come. Monday morning, Marcus put on his bus uniform for the last time. He had only told his boss, Jim Brady, that he had found another job. The real reason was so surprising that no one would believe it. Marcus, Jim said, you were a good driver. Good luck in your new job. Thank you, Jim. This experience was very valuable for me. Going to Boston District Court that day, Marcus was excited. The thought of wearing judicial robes and dispensing justice thrilled him. At the courthouse, Secretary Lisa helped him. Judge Thompson, she said. Welcome. Your first case starts at 10. Judge Thompson. These words sounded wonderful. Marcus reviewed the files. His first case was interesting. A theft case where Robert Henderson from Henderson & Associates was representing a client. An ironic smile appeared on his face. At 9:45 he was walking down the corridor leading to the courtroom. He was wearing judicial robes, walking with confident steps. He stopped at the door of courtroom 3B. He could hear lawyers preparing inside. He recognized Robert Henderson's voice. This case is very easy, Robert was saying. No matter who the judge is, we'll win. Marcus opened the door and walked in. Marcus entered the courtroom and everyone stood up. All rise for the Honorable Judge Thompson, said the bailiff. As Marcus walked toward the judge's bench, Robert Henderson didn't see him. His back was turned, and he was talking to his client. Your Honor, the bailiff said. Commonwealth versus Stevens case is ready. Marcus sat in his chair and opened the file. The parties may introduce themselves. Prosecutor Sarah Wilson stood up. Sarah Wilson, representing the Commonwealth. Now it was Robert's turn. He stood up, turned to look at the judge's bench, and froze. The person he saw before him was Marcus, the bus driver. But this time he was wearing judicial robes. Robert began stammering. Please introduce yourself. Marcus said calmly. Robert Henderson, Henderson & Associates. Robert's voice was trembling. His eyes were locked on Marcus, as if he'd seen a ghost. Very good, Marcus said. We can begin the case. Robert was still in shock. His client James Stevens whispered to him. Bob, are you okay? You look very pale. I'm fine, Robert said, but he wasn't convincing at all. Prosecutor Wilson read the charges. James Stevens is being tried for 2 counts of armed robbery. Marcus reviewed the file. Mr. Henderson, what is your client's defense? Robert tried to stand up, but his legs were shaking. Your Honor, my client is innocent. You may present your evidence. Throughout the case, Robert tried to compose himself but couldn't succeed. Every time he said Your Honor, his voice cracked. The words Marcus had said to him on the bus came to mind. You're just a bus driver, you wouldn't understand law. Now that bus driver was sitting before him as a judge. As the case progressed, Robert's performance got worse and worse. Normally a very effective lawyer, Robert was doing a terrible defense today. Mr. Henderson, Marcus said, do you have any other evidence about where your client was that night? Robert shuffled through his files. Yes. No. Your Honor. Marcus's patient approach made Robert even more nervous. You may take your time. No. Yes. I apologize, Your Honor. His client James Stevens was beginning to worry. He had never seen his lawyer this scattered. During lunch break, Robert was pacing in the corridor. His colleague Jonathan found him. Robert, what's happening to you? We've never seen you this scattered. Robert stopped and looked at Jonathan. Jonathan, this judge, he's that bus driver. What bus driver? Don't you remember? The driver of the bus we took every morning. The man we constantly said condescending things to. Jonathan's face changed. Are you sure? Of course I'm sure. Same face, same voice. That uneducated bus driver is now sitting before me as a judge. This is impossible, Robert. How does a bus driver become a judge? I don't know, but it's true, and I remember how badly I treated him. Jonathan thought. Maybe he'll be objective. He's professional. What if he's not? What if he takes revenge? The case continued in the afternoon. Robert had pulled himself together a bit, but still looked tense. Marcus was doing perfect judging. He approached the parties equally, followed legal procedures flawlessly. Mr. Henderson, Marcus said, you may make your final defense. Robert stood up. Your Honor, my client is an innocent person. The evidence is insufficient. As he continued his defense, Marcus listened to him carefully. He showed no signs of prejudice. When the case ended, Marcus took a recess to make his decision. Sitting alone in his office, he thought about that moment. For years he had endured Robert Henderson's humiliations. He remembered words like, you're just a bus driver. You can't understand law. People like you never develop. Now he had the power to determine that man's fate. But Marcus was a fair person. He wouldn't let personal feelings affect his professional decisions. He reviewed the evidence again. There wasn't enough evidence that James Stevens was innocent, but the evidence presented by the prosecutor wasn't sufficient for a definitive conviction either. There was reasonable doubt. The law required this. Marcus returned to the courtroom. Please stand. Everyone stood up. Robert Henderson's heart was pounding. In the case of James Stevens, Marcus said, since there is no jury, the decision is mine. Silence. The courtroom was quiet. I have carefully examined the evidence. The evidence presented by the prosecutor fails to prove the defendant's guilt beyond reasonable doubt. Robert began to breathe. Therefore, I acquit James Stevens of all charges. Robert Henderson breathed a sigh of relief. His client James Stevens hugged him with joy. Thank you, Mr. Henderson. You're amazing. But Robert's mind was elsewhere. Marcus had treated him fairly. He hadn't let personal feelings interfere with his work. After the case ended, Robert waited outside while the courtroom emptied. When Marcus came out of his office, Robert was waiting for him. Judge Thompson, Robert said, may I have a minute of your time? Marcus stopped. Of course, Mr. Henderson. Robert's hand was trembling. I owe you an apology. An apology? For my behavior toward you on the bus. For the words I said to you. I remember all of it, and I regret all of it. Marcus remained calm. I remember. How was I so blind? You were on the same bus with me every morning and You saw me as a bus driver, Marcus said, and you thought that was something to be ashamed of. Robert hung his head. You're right, and I was completely wrong. Mr. Henderson, Marcus said, what you need to learn today is this. A person's value doesn't come from their profession. I was the same person when I was driving the bus. Only my uniform was different. I know. I understand now. Do you really? Marcus stepped closer to him. Because this isn't just my story. The cleaning person you meet every day. The waiter. The cashier. They have stories too. They have dreams, goals, talents. Robert nodded. You're right. Completely right. Take this lesson not just for me, but for them too. Robert's eyes welled up. I will. I promise. Marcus extended his hand to him. Good day, Mr. Henderson. Robert shook his hand while trembling. Good day, Judge Thompson. In the following days, Robert Henderson became a changed man. He began treating his office employees differently. He greeted the cleaning staff, asked the receptionist about their well-being. One day he asked his secretary Linda, Linda, have you ever thought about studying law? Linda was surprised. Me? No, Mr. Henderson. I'm just a secretary. Don't use the word just. Linda, you're a very intelligent woman. If you want, our firm can sponsor your legal education. Linda's eyes lit up. Are you serious? Of course. Supporting talented people is our responsibility. This was just the beginning. Robert started a scholarship program in his company. He created educational opportunities for his employees. Meanwhile, Marcus had made a perfect start to his judicial career. His fair decisions and equal approach to parties were appreciated. One day, Boston Globe reporter Sandra Miller wanted to interview him. "Judge Thompson," Sandra said, "your story is very interesting. How did the transition from bus driving to judging happen?" Marcus smiled. "Actually, there was no transition. I was always the same person. Only other people started seeing me differently." "How was your education process?" "I went to school at night. I drove buses during the day and took classes at night. It wasn't easy, but my goal was clear." "Did you ever think about giving up?" "Of course, especially when people looked down on me. But giving up would have meant proving them right." "What do you say to those people now?" Marcus thought. "Nothing. My actions speak." Marcus's story spread quickly in Boston. Local television channels covered it. It went viral on social media. The hashtag "from bus driver to judge" was trending. This story affected not only Marcus but many people. At Lincoln High School, teacher Miss Rodriguez told Marcus's story to her class. "Children," she said, "what does this story teach us?" Jamal, the quiet student sitting in the back of the class, raised his hand. "That everyone can have hidden talents." "Very good, Jamal. What else?" Maria added, "We shouldn't judge people by their appearance." "Great. So who is the hero of this story?" The class was surprised. "Judge Thompson," they shouted. "No," said Miss Rodriguez. "The hero is Marcus Thompson himself. Because he didn't give up. He didn't stray from his goal. Even when people treated him badly, he continued walking the right path." A student from the class asked, "Miss Rodriguez, can we do things like this too?" "Of course. But first, you need to believe in yourselves." That day after class, many students came to Miss Rodriguez. They wanted to talk about college plans. Robert Henderson was undergoing fundamental changes in his life. He expanded the scholarship program in his company. He began providing free legal consultations. One Sunday, Robert's wife Elizabeth asked him, "Robert, you've changed a lot lately. Why?" Robert was sitting in the garden, drinking his coffee. "I learned an important lesson." "Elizabeth, what kind of lesson?" "I learned how blinding prejudice can be, and I paid the price for it." "What do you mean?" Robert told her Marcus's story. Elizabeth's eyes widened as she listened. "So you treated a judge condescendingly for months?" "Yes. And my shame is great." "How did he treat you in court?" "He showed perfect professionalism. He was fair. He even acquitted my client." Elizabeth smiled. "We can learn a lot from this man." "I'm already learning. Every day." Marcus's story wasn't limited to Boston. National media showed interest. CNN, NBC, ABC covered it. Marcus was interviewed live on the Good Morning America program. Host Robin Roberts asked, "Judge Thompson, what is the most important message of this story?" "Robin," Marcus said, "the message is very simple. Never judge anyone by their appearance, profession, or social status. Everyone has a story." "What do you say to people who looked down on you?" "I thank them." Robin was surprised. "Thank them?" "Yes. Because they taught me to be stronger. If they hadn't been there, maybe I wouldn't have been so determined." "That's a very mature approach. Holding grudges only hurts yourself." "I chose justice." After the program ended, Marcus received thousands of emails. People were sharing their own stories. "I'm a cleaning person, but I study nursing at night." "I'm a cashier, but I actually want to be a poet." "I'm a waiter, but I have an engineering diploma." Every message warmed Marcus's heart. Marcus's story particularly affected young people. He began giving speeches at universities. His speech at Harvard Law School was very impactful. "Dear students," Marcus said, "you are lucky. You're at a prestigious university. But remember, a diploma doesn't show your character, your behavior does." A student asked, "Judge Thompson, what should we do when we face difficulties?" "Keep moving forward. Every no brings you closer to yes." "What about when we face prejudice?" "Refute prejudice with facts, not with words, but with actions." After the speech, a student approached Marcus. "Judge Thompson, I'm a first-generation college student. My family doesn't understand me." "What's your name?" "Carlos." "Carlos. I'm also a first-generation college graduate. My family supported me, but no one knew how to do it. You're not alone. How did you continue? I took just one step each day. I focused on the next step, not the big picture. 3 years passed. Marcus was now one of Boston's most respected judges. Robert Henderson had become a completely changed person. One day, Robert visited Marcus in court. "Your Honor," he said, "I want to show you something." Robert pulled out a file. "This is my new project. We're providing free legal education to children from low-income families." Marcus examined the file. "This is wonderful, Robert. How many students are there?" "Currently 50. But the goal is 200. "How's the financing?" "We're getting sponsorship from my own company and other law firms. Would you like to support it too?" Marcus smiled. "Of course, but with one condition." "What is it?" "Let the program be called Second Chances Scholarship." "Perfect name." "Why did you choose this name?" "Because everyone deserves a second chance. You got one too. They should too." The scholarship program achieved great success. The first graduates were accepted to law school. Maria Santos was one of the first graduates of the program. Her mother was a cleaning person, and her father was a construction worker. "Judge Thompson," Maria said at the graduation ceremony, "your story changed my life." "How?" "My mother cleans office buildings every morning. People ignore her, but now I know she's so smart that if she had the opportunity, she could have been a lawyer." Marcus's eyes welled up. "Maria, you are her pride." "I was accepted to Harvard Law." "Congratulations. That's a tremendous achievement. But most importantly, I'm no longer ashamed of my mother's job. I'm proud of her." This was the greatest reward for Marcus. 5 years later, Marcus made an important decision. He received an offer to be appointed to the state's Supreme Court. But first he wanted to go somewhere. He visited the Boston Metropolitan Transit Authority. His former boss, Jim Brady, was still there. "Marcus," Jim said, "I saw you on television. Tremendous success." "Thank you, Jim. The experience here was very valuable for me." "Really? You were going through very difficult times back then." "Yes, but those days made me stronger. I learned how to communicate with people, to be patient, to act fairly." Jim smiled. "You were always special, Marcus." "Jim, I have an offer for you." "What is it?" "Let's start a free education program for bus drivers. Those who want can attend college classes." "This is a perfect idea." "How do we organize it?" "I'll find sponsors. You announce it to the drivers." When the program started, 30 drivers participated. Marcus gave them motivational speeches every week. "Friends," he would say, "you're not just drivers, you are people with dreams, goals, and talents." Marcus Thompson's story became a legend. The book From Bus Driver to Judge was written, a documentary was made, film rights were sold. But what Marcus was most proud of was others' success. Maria Santos graduated magna cum laude from Harvard Law. Carlos Rodriguez became a clerk in federal court. Linda Williams, Robert's former secretary, finished law school and started her own firm. 15 bus drivers earned college diplomas. Robert Henderson's scholarship program reached 500 students. The Second Chances Scholarship Program became a model and spread nationwide. On Marcus's first day at the state's Supreme Court, he gave a special speech. "My being here today is not a coincidence. This is the result of my faith in the system, my commitment to justice, and never giving up. But most importantly, this story isn't just mine. This story belongs to each of you. Because we all have hidden talents inside us. We all have goals we can reach. Don't let anyone tell you you're just. Because no one is just something. Everyone is unique, valuable, with unlimited potential. And if you're also facing difficulties, remember, when every night ends, a new day begins. When every door closes, new doors open. Never give up, because staying silent in the face of injustice means being complicit in injustice. Speak up, defend your rights, but do it with honor and dignity. Finally, never judge anyone by their appearance, profession, or past. Because tomorrow that person might stand before you as a judge." As Marcus finished his speech, everyone in the hall gave him a standing ovation. Today, Marcus Thompson is the youngest member of the Massachusetts State Supreme Court. The decisions he makes are fair, knowledgeable, and brave. Robert Henderson's law firm is now famous for pro bono cases. The Second Chances Scholarship Program is implemented in 50 states. In Boston, the Route 47 bus route was renamed Judge Thompson Route. Every bus has Marcus's photo, and this inscription: "Dreams have no expiration date. Keep going." And every morning, people boarding that bus know, today they're not just passengers, they're also potential judges, doctors, engineers, teachers, because Marcus Thompson has proven to them, your dreams have no expiration date. You just have to keep going. The end. This story teaches us, never judge anyone by their appearance. Everyone has a story, and that story might be much more impressive than yours. If this story moved you, share it, because maybe someone needs to hear this message. And remember, you're not just a passenger either, you're also a story.